She said, "I make more money, so I deserve more control in our relationship." Imagine hearing that from the person you love, right after you've been quietly covering most of their bills. Would you smile, agree, and let them take over? Or would you turn the tables in a way they never saw coming? This isn't just about money. It's about manipulation, hidden spreadsheets, and a shocking betrayal that could destroy 3 years together. Stick around, because the ending will leave you wondering, was this financial revenge, or the only way to expose the truth? For 3 years, everything seemed balanced. He was 29, a technical writer who loved grilling on their small balcony. She was 27, thriving in pharmaceutical sales, proud of her exposed brick apartment that they had chosen together. On the surface, it looked like a normal, modern relationship. Shared rent, shared space, shared dreams of vacations and a future. Friends saw them as a solid couple. Family believed they were building something stable. But beneath that picture-perfect exterior, tension simmered. They had different incomes, hers slightly higher, but he quietly covered countless expenses she never mentioned. Insurance, groceries, streaming services, even her phone bill. He didn't complain. He told himself love meant partnership, and partnership meant support. Then one ordinary Tuesday, during a simple dinner of takeout, the script flipped. She pushed her plate aside and announced that because she made more money, her voice should matter more. Vacations, furniture, entertainment, every decision, she insisted, should tilt in her favor. His fork froze midair. Was this fairness or something more sinister? In that moment, he didn't argue. Instead, he agreed, calmly, almost too calmly. She smiled, believing she had won. What she didn't know was that he had a plan and a spreadsheet of his own. That choice to stay silent and let her think she'd gained control would spark a chain reaction neither of them could stop. Because soon, the numbers would expose not just money, but betrayal, secrets, and a shocking exit strategy. At first glance, it seemed like just another Tuesday night. Takeout containers were scattered across the table, steam curling from the cartons of pad thai and spring rolls. The couple had settled into an easy routine over the years. Casual dinners, little jokes, conversations about work and weekend plans. Nothing about the evening hinted that everything was about to change. Then she leaned back, chopsticks in hand, and delivered a line that cut through the air like glass. "Since I make more money than you, I should have more say in our decisions." His chopsticks froze mid-bite. For a moment, he thought he had misheard. "More say? Decisions?" She clarified without hesitation. Vacations, furniture, streaming services, even where they went out on weekends. Her logic was simple in her mind. Bigger paycheck, bigger voice. He could have argued then and there. He could have reminded her about the countless small expenses he had been covering without complaint. Car insurance, internet, groceries, streaming accounts, even her phone bill. He could have pointed out that her claim of contributing more wasn't the whole truth. But instead, he smiled, set his fork down, and simply said, "You're right." Her face lit up. She believed she had won. She even leaned across the table to kiss him, gushing about how mature and understanding he was. But behind his calm eyes, something shifted. What she didn't realize was that his quiet agreement was the beginning of a plan. That night, while she slept peacefully, he opened his laptop. The glow of the screen illuminated his determined expression as he began to build a spreadsheet. Every expense, every hidden bill, every charge he had silently absorbed was listed line by line. Her car insurance, the $95 internet bill he paid each month, 80% of the groceries, the $120 gym membership she still hadn't moved off his credit card, the $75 worth of streaming services, the $45 phone plan she kept on his family package. When the math was done, the truth was undeniable. Despite earning less on paper, he was paying hundreds more each month than she was. He sat back in his chair, staring at the numbers until they blurred, not with confusion, but with clarity. Tomorrow, everything would change. The next morning, the first domino fell. A text buzzed on her phone, porting your number to a new carrier. "You'll need your own plan by the end of the day." Her reply was instant and outraged. "WTF? Why?" He didn't answer. By lunchtime, her car insurance was canceled. Streaming passwords were changed. Her gym membership terminated. Her messages came rapid fire, 23 in total. They began with confusion, spiraled into anger, and ended in threats. By the time he walked through the door that evening, she was waiting in the living room, laptop open like a weapon. "What is wrong with you?" she demanded. "I couldn't even watch my show today." He calmly set his bag down, pulled out his own laptop, and slid it across the table. "You said proportional responsibility. Here's the breakdown. You make more, so you cover more. Fair, right?" Her eyes scanned the sheet, line after line of expenses she had conveniently forgotten. Her face drained of color. She stammered, pointing out that she sometimes bought dinner, insisting it all balanced out. But the excuses crumbled under the hard truth of the numbers. Still, she refused to give in. That's when the manipulation began. She reheated frozen meals, set the table, acted as though kindness could erase the conversation. She played the part of the loving partner again, insisting they should just go back to normal. But every time, His answer was the same. I'm good with the new arrangement. Frustrated, she called her mother, putting her on speakerphone without warning. A sharp voice rang out. You're financially controlling my daughter. He stayed calm. Actually, I'm respecting her wishes. She wanted proportional contributions based on income. That's what we're doing. Silence. Then the call ended abruptly. The sweetness vanished. Panic began to creep into her voice as the reality of her lost privileges sank in. And just when she needed support most, another storm was brewing. She had a major pharmaceutical conference coming up, a career-defining moment she had bragged about for weeks. Flights, hotels, TSA pre-check, all of it had always been tied to his accounts. When she approached him, voice quieter now, and asked to borrow his card, just this once, he raised an eyebrow. Why would I do that? You make more money. Surely you've saved enough. Her facade cracked. Anger spilled out. Accusations of sabotage, jealousy, insecurity about a strong woman. She hurled every insult she could find, her words sharp and relentless. He didn't flinch. He didn't argue. He simply took another bite of his sandwich and asked, Are you finished? She threw a coaster across the room, missing him by inches. But he sat there, unshaken, and she realized something chilling. She wasn't in control anymore. What she didn't know was that her own carefully guarded secret would soon come to light. Hidden in her color-coded spreadsheets was a tab she thought he'd never see. One word sat at the top, exit strategy. And once he opened it, the battle wouldn't just be about bills. It would be about betrayal, trust, and escape. The apartment, once warm with laughter, had become a war zone. Silence was more dangerous than shouting. Every spreadsheet was ammunition. And as weeks passed, the cracks grew wider. Because when love turns into numbers, and numbers reveal lies, the only outcome is collapse. And he was already preparing for it. The spreadsheet war had only just begun. After their first explosive argument, she retreated into silence for a few days, sulking around the apartment with clipped words and heavy sighs. But he knew it wasn't over. She wasn't the type to give up control so easily. By Sunday morning, the silence broke. She entered the living room holding her iPad like it was a golden tablet of truth. I've been tracking everything, she declared, her voice rehearsed, confident, almost smug. She spun the screen toward him, revealing a color-coded spreadsheet complete with bar charts and pie graphs. According to her research, she was actually contributing far more than him. Not financially, but in what she called emotional labor and aesthetic contributions. She listed things like interior design consulting, $500 a month for picking throw pillows, social coordination, $300 a month for replying to Instagram comments, meal planning, $200 a month for deciding what takeout they ordered. At the bottom, highlighted in bold, she had written, You owe me money. He couldn't help it. He laughed, a deep, disbelieving laugh that only made her angrier. You're billing me for imaginary services, he said. They're not imaginary, she snapped. I make this apartment a home. You bought 3 pillows from Target, he replied flatly. Her triumphant smile faded, and then he dropped his own bomb. Pulling out his phone, he began to list his services. Its support every time he fixed her laptop. Handyman tasks for assembling furniture, car maintenance, personal training, even doing their taxes. His list dwarfed hers, both in effort and in cost. Her face twisted with outrage. That's ridiculous, she shrieked. More ridiculous than charging me for throw pillows, he asked. She stormed off, clutching her iPad, but in her anger, she forgot to close the file. When he picked it up later, curiosity gnawed at him. That's when he saw the other tabs, and one word froze him in place. Exit strategy. He clicked. What he found was meticulous and devastating. She had planned to stay just long enough to secure a promotion and a bonus, then leave him. The spreadsheet mapped everything, a timeline of 2 more months, notes about stringing him along, even apartment listings bookmarked in advance. For a moment, he felt sick. 3 years of partnership. And she had been plotting an escape while letting him foot the bills. But then anger gave way to resolve. He photographed everything and quietly messaged the landlord. As it turned out, only his name was on the lease. He could give 30 days notice any time. That night, he began searching for a studio of his own. Meanwhile, she was unraveling. Without his financial safety net, she discovered the reality of her lifestyle. Her credit cards were maxed out. Savings, barely any. Paycheck to paycheck, she had been balancing on his invisible support. Then came the final blow, her big conference. It required upfront payment for travel and hotel, with reimbursement afterward. Without his credit card, she couldn't book it. She tried everything. Sweet pleas, manipulation, begging, even accusing him of sabotaging her career. But he only shrugged. You make more than me. You'll figure it out. She didn't. She missed the conference. And missing it meant missing the territory promotion she had been bragging about for months. Her co-worker, the one she'd mocked as too basic, went instead and returned with the coveted assignment. The fallout hit her harder than any argument they'd had. She came home sobbing, collapsing on the couch. This is all your fault, she wailed. I'm going to get fired. "You're not getting fired," he said evenly. "You're just not getting promoted. You're good at your job. You're just terrible with money." Her tears shifted from sorrow to rage. She tried love bombing again, waking early to make him coffee, wearing lingerie, pretending to share his hobbies. When that failed, she turned to manipulation, posting nostalgic photos on Instagram, her mom commenting with guilt-laden messages. Finally, she escalated to threats, calling friends, accusing him of abuse, even warning she'd tell his employer lies about harassment. But he was ready. He had security camera footage of her throwing things at him. He had proof of every bill. He had her spreadsheet, her exit strategy, her lies. Every weapon she tried to use bounced back against her, and still she fought. "What if I pay all the rent?" she offered desperately. "You can live here for free." He looked at her calmly. "You couldn't even afford a plane ticket." For the first time, her mask cracked completely. The power she believed she had was gone, and though she didn't know it yet, the countdown to his departure had already started, because when trust is replaced with betrayal, there's no going back. And when she finally realized he was leaving for good, her reaction would be louder, more desperate, and far more dangerous than anything that had come before. The final weeks felt like living in a pressure cooker. Every day in the apartment was a test of patience, every conversation a minefield. He had already given notice to the landlord. He had already signed the lease on his new studio. The clock was ticking, and she didn't even realize the countdown had begun. Her first tactic was love bombing. She woke up early to make him coffee, though once she mistakenly used salt instead of sugar. She wore the lingerie he had bought her months earlier, lounged across the couch like nothing was wrong, and even feigned interest in his video games. But he had seen the spreadsheet, the exit plan that proved her love wasn't real. Each attempt only reminded him of how false it all was. When that failed, she turned to social manipulation. She flooded Instagram with throwback photos captioned, "Remember when we were happy." Her mother chimed in with public comments, "Don't let pride ruin love." Friends messaged him with accusations of toxicity and control. He responded with one screenshot, her own spreadsheet showing their salaries and expenses. The messages stopped, then came threats. She warned she'd tell his employer he was harassing her. Calmly, he showed her the security footage of her throwing objects at him. She threatened to sue for eviction. He handed her the lease, his name alone. Each threat fizzled, leaving her more desperate. Finally, she tried bargaining. "What if I pay all the rent?" "You can live here for free." "With what money?" he asked flatly. "You couldn't afford a plane ticket." By the time moving day arrived, she was unraveling. She followed him around the apartment, mascara streaking down her face, wailing like someone had died. "You're really doing this? You're throwing away 3 years?" "You threw it away the moment you planned your exit," he said, lifting the last box. "That was just fantasy," she cried. "Everyone thinks about leaving sometimes. Not everyone makes a spreadsheet with moving companies and apartments," he replied coldly. At the doorway, she clung to the frame, sobbing. "You'll regret this. Nobody will ever love you like I do." He gave her one final look. "God, I hope not." Then he left. In his new studio, life was quiet. No throw pillows, no aesthetic contributions, just his belongings arranged exactly how he wanted. For the first time in years, his bank account grew instead of drained. He could breathe. Meanwhile, her world collapsed. She couldn't take over the lease alone. Her parents refused to co-sign. At 27, she had to move back into her childhood bedroom. Her father charged her rent. Her mother made her do laundry. Friends learned the truth about the finances she had lied about. The promotion she was sure of went to someone else. She called him once, her voice sharp with blame. "You've ruined my life. You earn $85,000 a year," he said calmly. "If you're ruined, that's on you." Through mutual acquaintances, he heard she had started dating someone new, a crypto enthusiast whose investments were more fantasy than fact. Her Instagram showed dinners at restaurants where, in the reflection of sunglasses, declined credit cards were visible. He, on the other hand, began seeing someone from his cycling group, independent, self-sufficient, someone who paid her share without complaint. The first time she Venmo'd him for half of dinner, he nearly cried. When she asked what was wrong, he only laughed. "I'm just not used to dating an actual adult." Sometimes friends asked if he regretted leaving, but he would glance at his savings account, remember the exit strategy tab, remember the coaster flying across the room, and answer without hesitation, "No, best decision I ever made." And then, late one night, his phone buzzed with one final message. It was her. Corey's NFTs turned out to be a scam. "Can I borrow $500? I promise I'll pay you back." He didn't hesitate. He sent her one link, Indeed.com. Then he blocked her. For her, the spreadsheets had been weapons. For him, they had been liberation. And in the end, the numbers told the story better than words ever could. Freedom was priceless, and he had finally earned it. So what do you think? Was he being petty? Or was he simply holding her accountable for the very rules she tried to impose? Some people will say he should have left sooner. Others will argue that exposing her double standards was the only way she'd ever see the truth. Either way, this story isn't just about bills and spreadsheets. It's about control, manipulation, and the quiet strength it takes to walk away day when love turns into leverage. Now I want to hear from you. If your partner told you that their higher income gave them more control in the relationship, what would you do? Would you push back right away? Would you play along like he did and let the numbers do the talking? Or would you grab your stuff and leave immediately? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be reading every single one. And don't just tell me who was right or wrong. Tell me what you would have done differently. These what would you do moments are where the real conversations happen. If you enjoyed this story and want more jaw-dropping relationship dilemmas, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next upload. We dive into the messy, the shocking, and the unforgettable. And trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Until then, remember, respect isn't measured in dollars, and love isn't something you can calculate on a spreadsheet.